Good evening, everyone. Well, I missed seeing everyone last week, although last week I was running my 30 in 5-day challenge in a closed group, and so my focus was on that. We had a lot of fun doing that. But it's really good to be back this week doing my weekly Principles of Good Health series. And I'll definitely be doing this for the next 4 Thursdays, right through to the end of March. And then I should be having, or will be having, a 2-week break because I'll be away on holiday. So do join me for the next 4 Tuesdays. So today I thought I would talk about building a strong immune system because of, well, I don't think I even need to say why I'm doing that with the current media. It's not talking about anything else except spreading a lot of fear, I think, for people around coronavirus, and I think making people feel a bit panicky. Maybe you're not, but certainly whether you're worried about this particular virus or not, it's really important to understand what we can do ourselves to help build a strong immune system, because it's not just to do with this virus, it's with any colds and flu. Our body is constantly fighting infections, and therefore when we have the defences within ourselves as strong as they can be, then we're less likely to be coming down with something. Hello, I think someone's just joined. It'd be great if you said hello. It's good to see you here tonight. Later on at the end, I will be talking about I mentioned about my last group, Facebook group and challenge I did, but I am going to be running a programme after Easter, so I'll be giving you more details about that. So do stay and listen to the end of this to find out more about that. So what exactly can we do? You know, we've got our immune system. It's there to keep us fit and well, and there to keep us fighting off infection. So what can we do to support that? And our immune system, there's different levels of it, but when we tend to think mainly about our immune system, we're thinking about our white blood cells. And there are various types of white blood cells, and they all have various roles. Hi, Sabrina. They have various roles. And we have 2 different levels in our immune system. It's what we call our innate immune system that goes in quickly when it spots something that's all foreign and or shouldn't be there. It will run in and send out things and try and gobble up these foreign cells that are not welcome. And then we've got what we call our acquired immune system. That is what we build up over time. Through the years from when we're born, and we build up, and there are different types of white blood cells that go, oh, I recognise that, and that's definitely not welcome. I've seen that before, and we don't want that in the body. So there's different types of white blood cells and different things that happen. But at the end of the day, this amazing immune system with all these different types of white blood cells, and it's incredibly clever, all relies, of course, on what we're feeding our body. So I just wanted to run through 10 ways that we can support our immune system. And whatever's going on at the moment with coronavirus, there is still time to strengthen and build our immune system. And whether it's this virus or not, then we're always going to be exposed to other viruses. And if you feel you're coming down with a lot of colds over a winter, or indeed you may get a cold, but then you struggle to get over it, or you feel you're going from one thing to another, then there's plenty we can do to help strengthen our immune system. So number 1 in this is vitamin C. Vitamin C, research has shown how important vitamin C is to strengthen our immune system and to aid in the recovery of things like cold and flu. And in fact, in China, and I've known about this before, but they are looking, and they have been doing some tests and research with people who do have coronavirus about giving them intravenous vitamin C. So that's really high levels of vitamin C. But we can take vitamin C as a supplement. It's water soluble, so it doesn't stay in the body. So it is something that we need to keep eating foods that are high in vitamin C, and I would think about supplements at this point in time, vitamin C, and I would be thinking about 1,000 milligrams. Things I'm going to talk about now are safe to take for all people. But this is for adults, this is not for children. These levels are not for children, these are adult levels. So 1,000 milligrams may seem incredibly high, but this isn't high when it comes to when you're actually exposed to a cold or some sort of flu virus. And as I said, in China, they've been looking at intravenous vitamin C, and there's been other things being researched around vitamin C intravenously before. So there'd be much greater levels than 1,000 milligrams. But where can we get this in the diet? Well, we tend to think of oranges, citrus fruit, but actually it's dark green leafy vegetables. They're going to be very high in vitamin C. Things like red peppers, kiwi fruits, yes, of course, oranges as well. They're going to be very, very high in vitamin C. If you come across supplements with elderberry also works very synergistically. They work very well together. And often you'll find vitamin C supplements come with things like flavonoids like elderberry, and they're very, very powerful at fighting infections. They're antiviral, powerful antioxidant ability. And if you can get a time release formula, then I would go for that. So I'm definitely taking vitamin C at the moment. I have been doing that for a while. So that's number one in my top 10 steps. Number two, they're not necessarily in any order, but number two here is vitamin D, vitamin D3. Now, I've spoken about vitamin D before on an earlier version of this when we've talked about my top supplements that I would recommend. Now, if you may not know this or not, but vitamin D is the one supplement that the NHS, if you looked on the NHS guidelines, NHS choices, they recommend, it's not a new thing, but they've been recommending for a long time that we should all supplement vitamin D3 throughout the winter. This is our sunshine vitamin. It's not strictly speaking a vitamin, but it's called a vitamin, but it's our sunshine vitamin. That's because we only really get decent amounts of vitamin D when our skin is exposed to the sun without suntan lotion for a period of time without burning. And of course, with our climate, the northern hemisphere, we just don't get any sunshine throughout the entire winter months. It's so long, and when we do get sunshine, it is so low in the sky that we are just not going to get exposure to vitamin D through the skin. And in any case, it's so cold, our skin is covered up. So vitamin D3 is recommended by the government. They probably say take a measure that's 400 IU. That's the typical measure for vitamin D. I would recommend about 1,000 IU. We're coming to the end of our winter. This is when our levels are likely to be at their absolute lowest. So, if we're worrying about a virus and we haven't been taking vitamin D3 and we haven't been getting exposure to it the entire winter, unless you've been lucky to jet off to the sunnier climes and have some suntan over the winter, then I would probably take about 1,000 IU for about a month. Now, you can test this, and I can pop in here later on a test that you can do and how to get this. It's a finger prick blood test. It's not expensive. It costs about £30. And it's a really, really good way, either going into the winter or like now coming out of the winter, to say, well, what are my levels? What are my storage? Because you store vitamin D. This is a fat-soluble vitamin. It's stored as opposed to vitamin C that's water-soluble. So we do store it. But it's a really good idea to say, well, what are our levels coming out of the winter when we haven't been able to store it? I did a test recently and my level was about 80 something, whatever the measurement is. Now, ideally, I'd say our measure should be about 75 to 100. When you do this test, it says anything over 50. I don't think that's nearly high enough. I think our storage level of vitamin D should be over 75 up to about 100. And when you get your levels up at that, then, you should be in a more fighting fit, resilient way. Now, why is vitamin D so important? We know it's absolutely essential for modulating our immune system. Well, it's really important for the autoimmune conditions, but just thinking about day-to-day colds and flu, yes, it does help us to prevent exposure to getting colds and flu. It has antimicrobial properties. It modulates the immune system. So again, vitamin D is right up there at the top as far as I'm concerned when we're trying to build up our defences. So time's ticking on quickly, it always does. Number 3 here is zinc. Now, zinc we can get from foods. We can get it from our meats. We can get it from pumpkin seeds, lentils and chickpeas. Number one for zinc is oysters, but we don't really eat them, do we? So a lack of zinc is shown to suppress our immune system from working really well. And when we do have zinc levels that are good, it is antiviral. So coming back to coronavirus, that's a virus, and zinc is antiviral. It helps us fight viral infections. So zinc is important. So up your levels of your pumpkin seeds and your chickpeas and your lentils and your meat. I'm not going to say that everyone should supplement zinc. It's normally about 15 milligrams of zinc that we take. You could do that for a month. I don't think off the top of my head, I'm thinking about anyone on medications. Are there any contraindications? I don't think so with zinc, but I might want to check that. If you are on anything over and above your standard digestive support, there might be no blood pressure medication should be fine. If you're not sure, message me. I'll answer that one for you if you're interested in taking zinc. So there are supplements and foods that are really, really important. Now, the next thing is just generally, and it's what we were doing last week, you need a nutrient-dense diet as much as you possibly can. Really rich in vegetables with a little bit of fruit on the side. Plant-based as much as possible, but there's no reason why not. We shouldn't be having our meats. But when I say nutrient-dense, it's not about being vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian or eating meat. It's saying that we should prepare freshly prepared meals as much as we can, avoiding processed foods, avoiding diets that are too high in salt, processed fats, and of course sugars. Sugars dampen down our immune defenses. If we've had too much sugar, I remember this in my training actually, it will dampen down your immune system for 5 hours afterwards. I clearly remember that. So keeping sugar levels under control, not going crazy on your chocolates and your cakes and your biscuits, because sugar is definitely not good. It will dampen down your immune system, as will too much alcohol. Refined carbohydrates are not going to be good. So nutrient dense, just buying good, wholesome and eating a wholesome, naturally prepared diet is what we should aim for. Aim for 10 a day. Last week we were on this challenge, weren't we? Looking at eating a diverse range of vegetables, and you were getting plenty. But 10 a day is what we should be aiming for in plants, vegetables, a little bit of fruit. So if you can do that, you go for it. Now, number 5 for me here, I think we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm back to the gut and the gut bacteria. This would be a good time to think about supplementing probiotics. If you've had antibiotics over the winter, even more reasons to supplement probiotics. We should be looking for strains. There's plenty around now, but just a good probiotic, usually in capsule form. I'm not talking about Actimels in your drinks, but capsules. They're usually designed to withstand stomach acidity because stomach acid kills off bacteria. At least 20 billion flora per capsule every day for about a month. It's just going to be a really good thing to help maintenance and build up your immune system in your gut, because I've spoken before about how 70% of our immune system is in our gut. So don't forget to think about that as well. As a maintenance, you could be using fermented foods, sauerkraut, kefir, things like that. Last week I put a recipe in my group, Rejuvelac, which is to make your own fermented drink and to drink that. So that's just a nice way on a day-to-day basis to just support levels of your gut bacteria. Now, my final few things are just more naturopathic. Some of these are more common sense. The first thing I'm just going to mention, it's 1:15, is the lymphatic system. Now, the lymphatic system runs parallel with the circulatory system. So where the circulatory system is taking nutrients to our cells, the lymphatic system is draining waste away from our tissues and draining it away back into the bloodstream to be to dispose of it, and toxins and waste. But the other essential role that the lymphatic system has is for the production and storage of white blood cells. You're probably aware of lymph nodes. You know, sometimes if you get an infection, you might get lymph nodes coming up in your neck. And that's because there's this much greater production of white blood cells fighting an infection. But we want to keep lymph flowing. It's really important that we've got healthy lymph flow, because the lymph doesn't have a heart to keep it pumping around the body. We don't want it to become sluggish and congested. We want to keep it moving. So exercise is really important. But sometimes lymph drains back into the bloodstream up here. And for people who may find they get more sluggish lymph, and I ask people if they get more prone to being sort of sinusitis and a bit blocked up and congested up here, children get glue ear, more prone to tonsillitis. You know, it's really important to keep this area clear. And I do this really crazy thing with people, but it's really powerful to be opening up this sort of thoracic cavity. And I may look really stupid doing this, but this way is helping to get lymph moving, and this therefore helps to get lymph draining back into the bloodstream here. So if you're not being mobile, then doing stuff with your legs and keeping your ankles, because we need to be able to get the lymph draining back up from the ankles, because it doesn't have that pump, and gravity, it's got a long way to get back up north up here. So anything we can be doing, movement, moving our legs, keeping the lymph flowing is a really good thing to do. I would just say here, I talk about this in far more detail with clients, but just be a little bit careful of your dairy intake, because for some people, too much dairy can be mucus forming, and when things are mucus forming, they make the lymphatic system, can potentially make the lymphatic system more congested. That's a very naturopathic thing. Now, more generally, these are just common sense really. Fresh air is really important. Laughter. When we're stressed, and if we're feeling down and if we're stressed, again, that's been shown to dampen down our immune response and make things less resilient. So, you know, having a good laugh, getting out in the fresh air, trying to get rest, absolutely essential. You know, resting. We're all rushing around. I know it's difficult, but sometimes just stopping and thinking, you know, am I getting enough rest? Exercise is important, but am I doing too much intense exercise? Is that what I need right now? The first sign of a cold, I know at the moment they're telling us not to go anywhere if we've got any colds, but just as a general basis, when we get a cold, sometimes we just think, oh, I'm going to carry on and ignore it. But I think it's really important actually when we get a cold, or the first sign of a cold, is rest. You know, give your body every chance that it can to be fighting that infection. It's really important. Other just general good exercise to do is just walking or dancing or yoga or swimming or Pilates. It doesn't have to be the crazy hectic stuff if that's not your thing. But again, this movement, it really supports the lymphatic system as well. Two more things to mention: sleep. Now, some people really do struggle with sleep. We might struggle to go off to sleep, or we may struggle and wake in the night. Trying to set and get into habit of sleep hygiene. I might use this and talk about some of these things in more detail on my talk next week. But trying to think about your sleep hygiene and doing what you can to get off to bed perhaps earlier, rather than staying up later and trying to get too much crammed into your day is a really good thing to do, because sleep is when we rest, it's when your body repairs, and it has a chance to, you know, build up white blood cell production as well when we sleep, and just clear things out of the system. And the very final thing that I want to talk about is stress, which links back to some of these other things, but just being a little bit conscious of stress. Where are we exposed to stress? What can we do to limit our exposure to stress? Some things we can't, but anything we can do to lower our exposure to stress, reduce things down, doing some deep breathing helps. Maybe I will incorporate these into something next week, that just all these more naturopathic things that are so helpful. But anything we can do to just lower our stress response, because too much stress and too much cortisol is also going to dampen down our immune response. So I'm hoping those have all been really, really helpful things. They are all absolutely essential to support our natural immune response. So whether it's this coronavirus or just generally helping us to build a strong immune system, just to help us fight infections on a day-to-day basis is really important. So I just want to mention my program that I'm running on Facebook, which is after Easter on the 20th of April. And I'm really hoping you'll sign up and join me on this one. Last week I did a free program, but this one will just be just a low-cost program. It's going to be a 12-day spring clean your gut, mind and body. Yes, it is a sort of detox, but I didn't want to use the word detox because it's cleaning out the body. It's not going to be a juice diet because we cannot support the liver effectively when we're just juicing. The liver needs a huge number of nutrients to do its job properly. We need to be cleansing out the gut as well because we need to be able to excrete toxins out of the body. So I shall be providing daily meal plans, all the recipes. I'm going to be doing daily Facebook Lives, just like I did in my program last week. I shall be giving you symptom checklist at the start of the program so you can compare where you are at the start to where you are at the end, just to see if you're feeling more cleansed and more revitalized. There'll be a big symptom checklist so it can highlight things that may be because your system is a bit sluggish, and needs a little bit of detoxifying at the end of it. There'll be naturopathic lifestyle advice, foods to ideally avoid through the program. And those of you that sign up for this before the end of March, I will be sending out some videos that I recorded last year. They're taken from a program I ran at David Lloyd last summer, which was about getting in shape for the summer. So I've got some little video snippets, though for those of you who sign up and register for this before the end of March on my early bird rate, which is £35, I will be sharing these extra videos as well. So I really hope you'll participate in that. If you look at the top of my page at the end of the video, under the events section, you'll get all the details of the program there and a link to join, but I'll probably add the link to the end of this session as well. So thank you again for joining me tonight. I hope that's been helpful. And as I said, I'll be doing these for the rest of March, every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Hope to see you next week. Thanks everyone. Have a good evening.